All right. Well, hello, everyone. We at the USAEL are excited to kick off today's edition of the Careers in Esports series.
I am excited to say that this is episode 11 in our recurring series that aims to provide students, educators, and esports enthusiasts with a unique opportunity to explore a variety of jobs and career pathways in esports.
And you all should know the deal by now. Every month, we talk to a different expert from the world of esports and gaming. The roster includes professional players, coaches, game developers, tournament organizers, and others to give our listeners firsthand insights and expert advice on pursuing a career in the gaming industry.
Our guest list is full of industry veterans, stemming from companies and organizations that have established a significant presence in the space, with Blizzard Entertainment, Riot Games, and Ubisoft, just to name a few.
But as usual, let's first begin with some introductions. I'm Rich Conti.
And I'm Peter Poliglov.
And we are your recurring hosts for the Careers in Esports podcast.
Rich, are you excited to introduce our next guest?
Absolutely. And today is a first for us. We're lawyering up and talking to someone working in the field of esports and entertainment law. Without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce to our audience Justin M. Jacobson Esq, entertainment, esports, and video game attorney, professor, and author of The Essential Guide to the Business and Law of Esports and Professional Video Gaming. Justin, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, and I'm really excited.
Some key moments from Justin's career include managing the esports and gaming talent division at Ford Models, teaching esports at several colleges and universities, including Rich's alma mater, Champlain College, and leading his own firm, the law office of Justin M. Jacobson Esq.
Justin, to start us off here today, welcome. What does it mean to be an esports, entertainment, and video game attorney?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. As mentioned, I'm Justin Jacobson, and in that capacity, I really help assist individuals and businesses in the esports, video game, music, TV, movie, sports, any of these creative worlds. So that might include helping them with their contract drafting and negotiation, copyrights and trademarks, business and LLC matters, immigration and visas, and really most things related to the operation of their business or career. So I work with pro gamers and streamers and coaches and casters and teams and brands and tournament organizers, and really just helping them advise and properly structure and grow their business.
Thank you for sharing that, Justin. And speaking of gaming and esports, let's go ahead and jump right into our first question. What role has gaming played in your life? Where did it start and how did it evolve?
Well, I mean, I'm a lifelong gamer. I think, as your slide represents, I kind of go back to the old days of Nintendo and kind of trying to play Duck Hunt and Mario and evolving to Sega Genesis and N64. And I think that's really when, gaming took over. Zelda Legend Ocarina of Time is probably like the first game I got really obsessed with. And then we move over to these two, StarCraft and StarCraft 2 and 2K. And those are games that I've kind of played my whole life. It's always been like Madden, 2K, FIFA for me, and then you have some of these other games throughout. So it's really been something I've always enjoyed as how I connect with friends and kind of just in my own off time. And today I play a lot of Marvel Snap. That's probably my go-to. So it's always been involved in, my passion.
Nice. Marvel Snap's a good one. And I do see that jersey hanging up behind you there. Did you play any traditional sports as well, Justin?
Yeah, so I always enjoyed sports, and kind of during high school and college, I played lacrosse, and that's actually one of the talent that I work with. So that's his jersey. So it's always nice to have that kind of stuff going.
And having played a variety of games, obviously you're not a competitive esports player, but if you had to play competitively, which title would you compete in?
Definitely 2K, right? I was really big in the 2K league. It was about like 10 minutes from my apartment here in New York City before COVID, and I went and watched it a lot. And I was just like, God, I wish I was, this came out when I was 15, 16 years old, and you could be on like Knicks Gaming and walk into this arena and make 5 figures to sit courtside and play 2K. It was that would be it for me. But sadly, we know that they're on their hiatus, and we don't know what that actually means. But so yeah, 2K.
Would you say that's your favorite game as well, Justin, or do you have a different favorite game of all time?
Well, of all time, I mean, I would say that's something I've always kind of played. You know, I love regular basketball, so 2K is always something that you can always just kind of turn on whenever you had some time. I love like the rec mode and pro-am, being able to be with 5 other people and kind of have your player, and like that's always enjoyable. So yeah, I would say that's probably like my longing standing consistent franchise. But then I always loved Madden, so it was probably like those were always like 1 and 2. But now being a lawyer and all the stuff you mentioned, you just don't have enough time to game as you would like to.
Do you watch any esports media or any gaming streams or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm definitely always kind of taking note of what's going on. Obviously, checking in on my clients and engaging with them. It's always fun when I pop up on their stream because you know exactly who I am. They start talking to me, and then other people in their chat are like, "Who is this person?" And they like kind of connect the dots a little. So it's fun to be able to kind of watch your clients and other people, streaming and kind of doing what they're great at, right? Like that's what I love about being in the entertainment world, is like going to a live show or watching your client perform. It's like, whoa, like this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll throw it over to Rich for our next question.
Yeah, taking a step back, why did you choose to pursue a career in business and law? What kind of led you down that path?
I mean, I've always kind of been involved in the entertainment world, spanning from working at different labels like Tommy Boy and Ross Records to interning at MTV and at ASCAP. And so like I always knew I wanted to be involved in the entertainment world, the music world in some fashion. So I felt like I didn't know where I was going to fit in, but I knew that going to law school, having this knowledge would always kind of put me in a unique position, give me a skill set that could translate to wherever else. And, that was kind of the basis of that.
Did you choose, and did your school sort of allow you to specialize in entertainment law, or when did you decide to sort of specialize, right? Because law is a big field, right? You're not a defense attorney or something like that. When do you decide to, specialize in entertainment law?
I think it was something that I kind of knew early on, that was always something I wanted to be involved in the entertainment space, and where I went didn't necessarily have its own distinct program, as there are some schools that have that. But I just really took all courses that were kind of offered in it, entertainment law, sports law, licensing and IP, anything else that was really kind of related to what I knew I wanted to kind of do, I took. So that was kind of my thought process. And again, having these different experiences, working at a label, working, with talent directly, as I managed as DJ during law school, and then kind of working at the bigger media publication like MTV, and then the Performing Rights Society like ASCAP. So you're really kind of seeing all aspects of the industry and really seeing how they all work and what's important to different parties. And it really just kind of gives you like a new insight on how to kind of function in it.
It seems like you were involved in a lot of extracurriculars during your time at George Washington University. Can you speak a little bit to the importance of that extracurricular and that networking component and building those connections early on?
Yeah, I think it's crucial. And I feel like one thing that really set me apart and I was really, cognizant of was trying to have an internship like every semester. Like I was probably one of the few people that had one freshman year, like going to this record label in Silver Springs, Maryland on the subway, like waking up at 8 a.m. on Friday. Nobody wanted to do that. But hey, like from there I was able to work at MTV, and from there I was able to go here and build my network and kind of get to the point where like I'm kind of doing my thing. And it was like, that's always, as someone who's now in the position of, hiring and working with students and advising them, that's what I always champion. I think especially in these entertainment, whether it's entertainment, sports, gaming, esports, any of these, I'll call them fun media kind of industries, it's really about building this resume, this network, this practical experience that you really can't get or learn from a book. I know people say that, and it's a little cliche, but learning how to talk to a rapper or a record label, how to explain something to a pro gamer or a streamer, how to explain complicated things like trademark and copyright protection, and the way certain, now that we have AI and copyright and how that starts to implicate things and how that changes a lot of, I talked to this TV star. It's like for 20 minutes, I gave her a lesson on AI and copyright and why you have to be, when you're hiring other people, why this is important, why we have to insert new language into your agreements that never existed before, because this is certain protections that, this is the state of media and creatives at this point. So it's really something that you have to kind of be in it to really understand it. And then when you're looking for these opportunities, if I have a resume that's like, oh, I worked at, for lawyers, like I worked at a family law, I worked at a judge, I worked criminal, but now I want to be in entertainment because I love it and it's so fun. It's like, that's cool and I get it. But someone who worked at a label, who worked at, a publisher, who worked at even a management company, like anyone who's kind of worked at your local TV station, radio station, anyone who kind of try to put themselves into this and try to get this experience however they can, you already have somewhat of a better understanding of how to actually function here, right? And that's what's really going to be valuable. And it shows the passion and trajectory. Like anyone that can look at my resume, know, okay, this is someone that's passionate about it. He wants to be in it. He's had all these different experiences. So that could be valuable. And at the end of the day, for these hotly contested areas, that's how you set yourself apart. And I think that's something that students and people that are pursuing these careers need to really take in hard and understand.
This leads into our next question. So once you actually get to that point, once you're working at a law firm where you have your own practice established, what's it like working in entertainment law, and how much of your work is in esports as compared to other areas?
Or how much of it is fun? So that, that's that photo on the right is that, an art release party for one of my clients. And that was with, a group that I had worked with. So there's definitely a lot of fun. It's working with a lot of unique people, like, going out to different events, networking, fun things like this, behind the stage, backstage. And definitely I do a lot of stuff in the esports and gaming space. I would say that, I don't know if it's necessarily 50-50, but I definitely spend a lot more building and working in the esports stuff than maybe some of the other areas, especially over COVID. I felt like that really kind of like all the other entertainment verticals were kind of like paused pretty much. So that really kind of took front and center. But now in the last, I would say about year to, it's really started to really build up again, where I'm doing a lot of stuff with music, this TV actress and a bunch of other different, more traditional entertainment verticals. So it's nice to be able to work with also people that kind of span both. And I think that's been one thing that I've really focused on is, working with musicians that are also involved in the esports and gaming space, or working with athletes that also had, esports and gaming or was something a vertical they're trying to do. So I've really been able to kind of work in both areas and bring this expertise and understanding of both of these worlds and really advise and work. So that's been something that I get to really explore a lot. And I think it's just going to continue to grow, because every other entertainment world, entertainment, sports, fashion, art, music, there's just such a synergy there, right? Athletes are also fashion designers and want to be musicians. Musicians are also involved in fashion and art. And it's just kind of like, you're just a creative. And it's just like you use different means and mediums to kind of express your creativity. And that's kind of the way I focus on this.
And Justin, it's my understanding that you're also a professor. How is education involved in your work or what you do?
Yeah, so I'm actually an adjunct professor at a few different universities, as in I teach media law at Hunter College, as well as sports law at Caldwell University, and in addition to esports and video game classes at Harrisburg University and Post University and University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and some others. And it's great. I really love interacting with the students, and both on campus as well as virtual classes. So I'm really able to have best of both worlds and really kind of see the engagement. It's actually been really nice because in the last few months, I've actually met like two of my students that were like in virtual things in person, where like one happens to be the esports coach at the university I'm now teaching at, and other one was like in the area and came to one of the networking events. And it was just like, hey, like this is great. And then it's nice to kind of have that where it's like, oh, you were my professor, but like now that you're not a student and now you actually have jobs in this industry, it's nice to kind of connect on that. So I really enjoy interacting with students. I think most of the people that take these courses are really passionate and they really love it. And you can kind of tell from their responses. And that I think is the thing I like the most is like I learn so much from students because of how enthusiastic they might be. Like they love their game and like I might not be familiar with that game, but they know so much about it that like at the end of it, I'm like, oh wow, that sounds really cool. Or like I didn't know that was like part of the community that you're involved in. So I feel like that's one of the things I'm enjoying the most about it.
Beautiful. Thank you. And if I can ask, what is the essential guide to business and law of esports, and why did you make it?
So this is the book that I had authored, and really I kind of created it because I felt like there was just really this knowledge void and there was really a necessity. This is something that when I was starting out, I wish kind of existed. It exists in similar other entertainment verticals, especially in the music world. And it was really meant to kind of give, whether you're a streamer, content creator, a gamer, someone starting a team, or a practitioner, an accountant, anyone that's really trying to look at this esports and why it's professional video gaming. I know it's a long title, but I really wanted to encompass anyone that's in the video game space for a profession. So coaches, analysts, casters, on-air talent, people that are running teams, running up, content creators, streamers, all these people who are kind of part of this whole thing. It might not necessarily be competitive gamers or, people that compete in tournaments and leagues, but it's all a lot of similarities. So it really kind of is meant to break down a lot of the essential business and legal matters that people and businesses in these spaces should be aware of. So it kind of sets the tone for the different business revenue streams that are available for the parties, looking at then copyright and trademark and intellectual property matters related to them, and then immigration and business and tax and social media disclosures, and then starts to look at the esports federations and associations and try and just give you kind of this understanding from a more, legal business perspective. Like, how do you make money? How do you do it legally? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters to most people, right? Like you want to do something you love and you're passionate about and you want to make money from it. And that's a great mix. And if you do it the right way and legally, you might make a lot of money and be really successful. And that's what I hope. And that was the aim of the book, was to kind of be like, okay, well, these are the things you should be aware of. You have to protect your name, and you have to, these are how you do certain write-offs and certain things that might make sense. This is how you might structure your business to, protect your personal assets. And so it's like really trying to highlight all these important things that anyone that's functioning in this space should be aware of.
That's beautiful. And it segues nicely into our next question as well, which is, can you tell us a little bit about the day-to-day as an entertainment and esports lawyer? And I'm curious about what are sort of the most common needs that you service for your esports clients? Is it, the immigration papers? Is it writing contracts? And sort of what are you doing for your esports clients on a daily?
Well, yeah, so definitely some throwback photos there. That was, the middle was at a Rashad Jennings charity event. So I was actually working with him and his charity to put on the event. So that was really cool. So it's really kind of about servicing the different clients and assessing what they need and helping them. So like you said, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, a lot of drafting, reviewing contracts. I do some litigation and arbitration. So right now I'm involved in two big things for that, and, filing trademarks and copyrights and forming entities. And a lot of it is talking with current clients, potential clients, different brands, companies, anyone that could potentially help with any of my current clients, or potentially might help find new opportunities for what I'm working with, or might need my assistance. So the day-to-day is really like kind of the same, but it's also really different because, a judge might make a ruling on something might happen, an agreement might come in, like a new issue might arise. So it's like, there's a lot of like also, evolving and reacting on the fly, right? Where like, you don't know that maybe you're going to wake up and someone's going to reply to the letter you sent a week or a month or whatever ago. And now it's like, okay, well, they replied. Now we need to read the letter, see what's going on, figure out the next steps, talk to the client. And, that was probably not something I envisioned the day before. So it's like a very like fluid situation, but it's also like, every day, there's a lot of similarities in what I'm actually doing. And then you get to go to fun stuff, right? Then it's not always going to record parties, and New York Fashion Week was really fun. So there was a lot of stuff going on, different fashion shows, art exhibits, and kind of all these industry networking things. So really try to go out there. And as we see by the last photo, actually involved in kind of hosting and being involved in my own kind of networking series, trying to really build up different communities and kind of merge all these different verticals that I'm in.
That was actually, I was going to ask about that. How much does promotion and publicity go into building your own brand, building your own business?
I mean, especially as a solo practitioner in one of these entertainment worlds, that's definitely been something that is part of it. And I think it's important for people that are looking to build their own, work on their own thing. It's always about brand building, right? And then especially in these more public facing industries, that kind of comes with the terrain and the territory of being in it. And I think it's important because there's some people that just want to do work. They don't want to be out there. They don't want to be on screen. They don't want to be doing all of these things. And that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's you got to know what your strengths are and what you're comfortable with. And, there's opportunities for people that's what they're about, right? If you just want that kind of career path, that kind of opportunities, those exist. But then again, there's these opportunities to kind of build your own brand name, your own, I guess, reputation. I don't want to say necessarily notoriety, but that guy Justin, I work with him, he does good stuff, or I've heard about him, or, I checked out his book, where it's these are the things that as someone in this kind of space always finds valuable. And for someone that's looking at these entertainment and esports verticals, a lot of the best clients, a lot of the best kind of leads are mostly from referrals of other people, right? It's other people that are doing stuff at a high level, other people that are trying to do at that level, they kind of reach out to them, talk to them, want to say, who are you working with? How do I kind of get to be you, right? And as you move up, you start to see the real value and importance of, attorneys, your own independent representation, people that are just beyond maybe the manager, the agent, the other kind of parts of your team that most talent have. So that's kind of the importance. So it's if you want to do it, you have to know that it's kind of part of it, or know that there are other options, right? Where you can just work for an entity and be represented by them.
That's a very interesting point. So you're saying that basically nowadays, if you want to work and make money in the esports industry, you need to have an esports and entertainment lawyer or a source of legal truth.
I mean, a lawyer telling you to get a lawyer is always funny, but I think that it's one of those things where know what you know and know what you don't. And once you get to the level where the stakes are higher, and if you're dealing with other sophisticated parties that have their own attorneys, and I always say if you're dealing if you're representing a player with a team, the team's attorneys are drafting the agreement to protect the team, their client. That's their job. So yeah, maybe they're not trying to completely rip you off or fleece you, but I guarantee you that if you had someone that was your attorney, your representation, that was only worried about your interest, the agreement might be a little bit more balanced. It might be a little bit more favorable than initially is. And I think that that's the key to successful business is if you don't do things right up front and you're successful, you're going to have to pay and figure them out later. And that's kind of what I preach, when I'm at all these events with all these creatives. It's it might be annoying to get an agreement with the producer now, but let me tell you, as someone who's working with a producer that didn't do any of this stuff really, it's costing him way more money to try to fix all his mistakes and get all the rights to all these really big songs that he was a part of, and then I have clients that before the producer's going to sign the agreement, you got to pay him money. And once you pay him money, they don't necessarily care about signing the paperwork at that point. They just want the money. So again, this is not saying hey, you need a lawyer to do this, but if you don't do the things that a lawyer would probably tell you or help you do, you might set yourself up later. And I think that's the biggest thing to, take away is that you want to do things properly and right up front so that you don't have issues later that could have been avoided. And usually they're going to be a lot more costly than probably what it costs to take care of it, before the issue happened.
That makes sense. And so, Justin, I know like an esports player working with a lawyer to write a contract and join a team is sort of an obvious, pitfall. But what are maybe some other pitfalls that you can highlight for esports players outside of that, contract joining a team? Maybe this is just a player who's streaming online or something. What are some other pitfalls that you see in the esports space?
I mean, I think a lot of stuff when you're dealing with, sponsors and brands, making sure that whatever agreement you're signing kind of makes sense of the situation. I've worked with talent where I've seen agreements where it's like they have some 6, 9 months, whatever year non-compete, and you're dealing with one sponsored stream. And it's like those things don't necessarily add up. And if you don't necessarily understand to negotiate beyond the money, because I feel like that's what most people focus on, right? It's like how many posts, how much money, like the bare minimum things, but the non-compete, and if you can't work with direct competitors or anyone and what the time frame are, these things actually matter too. Because, maybe you do one stream and a month later some competitor wants to pay you, and if you have a 6-month non-compete, you can't do that. And now it's like, oh no, what did I sign? So it's like I feel like people don't realize that what they're signing might have implications beyond that instance. And then from, streamers and content creators, anyone that's really building a brand, trademarking, proper protection, understanding that if you're going to build a persona, sell merch, do licensing, all these different things to make money off of your name, your gamer tag, you need to protect it. You need to search and make sure it's secure and that you can use it. And these are really important things and the keys to really succeeding at this level. And you see a lot of the biggest streamers and content creators and players doing it. There's a reason why musicians and DJs and, sporting teams and every other entertainment business trademarks their brand name, their logo, their everything related to their whole entire messagery and public persona, because it's valuable and you need to protect it so that you can properly enforce it and that you can show that you actually have the rights that you think you do. Because just because you make a gamer tag doesn't necessarily mean you have trademark, exclusive trademark rights to the name for XYZ categories, right? These things have no relation to each other. So it's something just to kind of be aware of that. Hey, if you're going to build a name, build a gamer tag around this name, you better make sure you own it and then it's clear. And, it might be like common sense to me and other people in business, but to a 19-year-old streamer, like that's probably not what they're thinking about when they're, skyrocketing up the Twitch viewership ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
very well said.
Great takeaway for any aspiring esports players or streamers building followings, that the protection of that IP is very important. Jumping into our next question, Justin, what do you think, kind of reflecting back on your personal and professional journey and some of the things we talked about, what should students focus on to pursue and succeed in a career in entertainment or esports law?
I mean, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, really trying to get this practical experience in the space and in these different verticals and seeing what you like, seeing what, maybe you don't like, seeing different sides of the coin, because the more experience you have, the more opportunities, the more exposure to different people and different jobs and responsibilities, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to take away, and the more it's going to benefit you. And I always say you never know who someone's going to become. It's always great to be nice to everyone and try to connect with everyone and try to learn as much as you can, because that's what this stuff's about. And I feel like as a student, yes, try to have coursework, try to do things that will provide you with knowledge in these verticals, but you need to pair it with this actual experience. You need to use while you're a student to get this experience, right? Getting college credit and, all of these things, because this is the opportunity to do it. I had someone, come on that, really well respected that said, like, as a student, anything is possible. Once you're a graduate looking for a job, the conversation changes. So this is the time when you're trying to build in this to try to be like, okay, well, these are the kind of companies I want to work for. I'd love to see what it's like. And then reach out to 10 of them. And if you're like, hey, I want to help you however you can. I want to learn about this side, this, whatever it is. People need help. People want help. They want eager people that are passionate and want to help. And I'm not going to get into the conversation about paid and unpaid and all that stuff because, I don't think that's, something that's a conversation on itself. But the idea is being able to prepare coursework with practical experience and building your network. Again, building the notoriety if you're kind of pursuing that lane so that you can kind of go where you want to go, be involved with how you want to be involved in. And again, as you're applying for jobs, if your resume and your coursework read like someone that's really passionate and has experience and could be valuable to a company, that's probably what's going to get you hired, right? Like that's how hiring people make decisions, where it's like, oh, well, this person has worked in all of these other companies. They worked at these 3 other teams. They worked in sponsorship and recruiting and this, that, and the third. They took courses on this. Wow, they would probably be a really good fit here. And chances are in these kind of industries, and I think it's the kind of last point about it, is that like as you go up the ladder, as you're dealing with more high level stuff and more high level people, a lot of those people know each other and deal with each other on a fairly regular basis. So that becomes another part of this conversation where like you need to go and find opportunities and do well and succeed and be an asset, because when you are that, you have more opportunities and more people are willing to help you, continue forward.
And Justin, if you could highlight what is a typical pathway for a student wanting to get into law? There's a certain level of education and then a bar exam, or what does that typically look like?
Yeah. So, generally you need your undergraduate and then, go to, I know in the US for me, going through your and getting your JD. And then after getting your JD, which is your Juris Doctorate, you then take a bar exam in the state you're trying to be admitted to. And then once you pass the bar, you go through, the ethics committee interview, and then you get sworn in, and, then you could be a lawyer after you go through all that fun stuff. And
so I'll take this next one. Is there anything, Justin, that you see maybe evolving in the industry that's sort of changed since you were going through college?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that, I'm able to kind of advise people that make YouTube videos on Fortnite and Call of Duty and all this. Like, it's just wild to me that this is even a thing, that like, there's arbitration over a salary of like a huge player. And it's like, this is wild that this is even something. Like, I never fathomed that it existed back when I started, or even when I was back in law school, or any of it. So I'm just amazed that it's evolving to this, that it's at the level where this is a conversation, and that there was even, a publisher that was willing to put a book out about it, and that there was enough people that bought it.
Essentially, a whole new field of law was created where once it didn't exist. It wasn't a thing.
Exactly. And then I think that it's great because it was always something that I was passionate about and enjoyed, and being able to kind of bring that into the stuff I was already doing was just kind of a really nice, added bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And jumping into our final question for today, Justin, why should schools today support their students' love for gaming?
Because it's great. I use this example that, like I said, I'm teaching at this university, and like they have like an esports lab, and I've kind of, been hanging out in it before class just to kind of, that was a room that's open. So like, it was just really nice to see like, a bunch of co-ed just like in the room, just like playing around, talking, like just kind of engaging and like talking about their favorite Valorant players and like how they play, and kind of like razzing each other up about it. And it was just like, it was so nice to kind of see like, just students, kids just being kids, and like the love of gaming is what kind of connected them. And they probably wouldn't have known each other or talked to each other if otherwise. Like, I felt like these are probably people that maybe aren't necessarily from the same social circles or same areas, but the fact that they all wanted to be here, play this game, enjoy it, and want to be part of the team kind of brought them together. And like, you could see the genuine friendships and bonds and like the stuff that you hope that this creates. So I feel like that is what I, especially in the scholastic space, I work with some K through 12, I work in the collegiate space. So I really have seen it firsthand where it's amazing. I work with Garden State Esports, and I've been to a few of their championships, and I've watched like these kids win the Valorant championship and go crazy and like hugging each other and just like so like, it's just like a feeling that they just won and it's just like to see that and hear their parents cheering for them and have their siblings there. And like, I thought it's amazing. So like, to me, like I'm like tearing up, right? It's like, yo, like this is what you want for these students, to give them this opportunity to shine and doing it with something that they're passionate about. So that's why schools should get behind it, because it's their job to empower their students to succeed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin. If that's the why, what do you think is the how? How can schools and school leaders support their students and love for
Just
gaming?
start. Something is better than nothing. Get the mentality that this is going to be beneficial. There's so many stats. There's so much information on how it increases grades and attendance and participation from potentially people that might be a bit disenfranchised from it, don't feel like the traditional school setting might fit them. They might not necessarily be on other clubs or other sporting and other extracurricular activities. So there might not be any other ways for them to engage in the student body or the school beyond class. So I feel like whatever it is, whether it starts as a club, an after school this, a joint school with, a joint club with the next school over, like whatever it is, start it in some fashion and let it just grow from there. I talked to a lot of people that have developed these programs, and it's really like, hey, it's all based on the students' passion and interest, what games they want to play, how they want to build this up. And I think that's got to be the focus. So it's like, okay, like see how many of your students would join an after school club and like that does this stuff, that we all go to the local gaming facility on Wednesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours and load up in whatever game, or like, hey, who here likes League of Legends, right? Or like whatever it is, start in some fashion and let it grow from there. And I guarantee you're going to see that it's going to have a positive impact on the students, the participants, and then you can assess how you want to support it. But I think if you don't try and you don't see how it works and you don't give it the support from the higher ups, as we know in education, if you don't have the support from the higher ups and the people in charge, the deans, the principals, the vice principal, if you don't have that support, the superintendent, the board of ed, like a lot of things are not going to happen. And I think that as, academics and high school and scholastic and all this evolve, you need to do whatever you can to continue to have students engage and to keep them passionate about their education and their growth. And I think this is kind of a cheat code to do it. That like, it's kind of like going to where they are, speaking their language and be like, hey, I get it. Like but you have to attend every class. You have to have certain grades, and these are the requirements to have this privilege, right? Like that's the way they look at extracurriculars. Like this is a privilege for you to be on the football team or to be in the newspaper or whatever. And if you don't go to class, you don't have certain grades, you engage in disciplinary action, etc. These are privileges that we can take away from you, right? So I think if schools can implement that, not only will you engage students and have them find new passions and careers and things they like, but you're also collectively increase their enthusiasm for success and caring about it and putting that extra time into what's necessary. And, as someone who, I've now dealt with hundreds of students over, pretty much a decade, like you could tell who's really trying and who's not, right? And no one here, we're not doing rocket science. Like I'm not asking you to solve equations that I could not solve. We're talking about, video games and marketing strategies for how a developer made microtransactions and, DCL and stuff. So you have to engage with what they're passionate about. And I think that's the most important thing.
Very well said. Unfortunately, I do think that means we are out of time for today. So we want to thank everyone listening. Justin, a huge thank to you. Huge thank you for being our panelist today and sharing your experience with our students and educators.
My pleasure. Thanks you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Justin. Stay safe and happy gaming. Till next time. Bye-bye.